Please note that this video directly references Christianity and Judaism and the Judeo-Christian God of the Bible, but the same concepts can be applied to other religions. So lately I've been watching a lot of debates between religion and atheism, and I've noticed one point that is repeatedly brought up on both sides of the issue, that some people just need faith in their lives. I used to think the same thing, but now I recognize this as a really arrogant statement. Whoever says this automatically implies a superiority of their perspective and their manner of dealing with the world, and a certain weakness inherent in some people that they fill with religion. Despite this being a backhanded insult to religious people, the point is still brought up, and it's mostly brought up by other religious people. So I decided to investigate it in more depth. What I found is that, as a general trend, people who say that the religious need faith aren't referring directly to faith. They're referring to the various support systems that people have been taught to attach to faith or religion. It actually turns out that the things religious people get from their faith are the same sort of things that everyone needs. For most religious people, the mythical and supernatural parts of religion are not the contributing factor to their faith. The contributing factors are these needs. Which leads me to the point of my video. From what I can tell, there are 4 pillars that hold up the delicate monument of faith. These pillars represent important facets of life, our understanding of the world, and our place in it. They provide the support systems that we all need to give our lives meaning. You can attack the faith monument with as much logic as you want, but if you don't do something about these pillars, then faith is not going to budge. People will cling to the things that they need, even at the cost of their reason. And if these are indeed psychological needs that every human being shares, then it would be incredibly unethical of us, as atheists, to take them away from people by tearing away the faith that anchors them. This is probably why religious people become so upset when an atheist ridicules their faith. They see it as a threat to everything that keeps them sane and happy, and with purpose to their lives. So our goal should not be to antagonize someone's religion with the express purpose of destroying their faith. Instead, we must recognize these pillars, and then not only tear them out from under the oppression of faith that they have been built into, but give them a new stronghold to attach to. Replace faith as the center of their design with something better. So, without further ado, I present to you the pillars of faith. The first pillar of faith is community and support. This pillar includes all the bonds between humans, such as familial ties, friendships, and community congregations, financial and emotional support in troubling times, and the comfort of familiar tradition. No one can argue that the church doesn't have a large support base, with resources ranging from money to volunteers. This is a very tempting environment to go to if you want to connect with other people. It makes it even easier if your family is there too, and you had been raised doing it your entire life. Going to church makes you feel connected to the people around you. But if you step back and think about it, there are many ways that you can find that connection with others. If you make any of these pursuits a consistent event, then it will become a tradition in your family, something that your children can pass on to their children. As for financial support, there are many charities, nonprofit organizations, and scholarships that don't require you to subscribe to their beliefs or their rituals to receive aid. You can look up charities in your local area on the internet, or contact your school for scholarship opportunities. The government also provides financial aid to those in need. So instead of spending an hour a week at church so that you can connect with others, make your own personalized event that you control. The second pillar of faith is a moral guide. People who are raised religious are often taught, explicitly or implicitly, that God is the foundation of all morality, and that without it, humans would fall into a life of sin and depravity. Many religious people view their faith as a source of morals, or at the very least as an ethical guideline. It encourages them to donate to charity. It has a set of rules for them to live by, a stark line that they are told not to cross, or else. And not only that, it provides forgiveness when that line is crossed, an absolution of their guilt from the ultimate judge and authority. These are all positive offers for the person who wants to lead a moral life. But when truly pressed about it, most religious people will admit that they know someone who doesn't have a faith, but is still a good, honest, and decent member of society. Looking outside the scope of personal experience, we see even more compelling evidence that morality is not derived from faith. Every culture, regardless of faith, has had the same basic moral principles, laws that protect the safety and integrity of its members. If we really sit down and think about what is moral and what is not, we come to the conclusion that the most moral thing you can do in any given situation is whatever will produce a result that leaves the most happiness in its wake, not for individual people necessarily, but for society as a whole. An action is only labeled immoral if it somehow causes damage to the psyche or to society. Take these two scenarios, for example. In scenario 1, your friend accidentally hits you. You're a bit hurt physically, but mentally you're not upset. You knew it was an accident. They apologize profusely and you tell them it's fine, and it is. You're over it. You wouldn't even think about calling your friend immoral for this. Now we'll go to scenario 2. This time, the same friend hits you, but now with malice. They cause the same amount of physical damage as in scenario 1, but in this case, we do consider the action immoral. Why? Because you were injured not just in body, but in mind. It hurts us emotionally to be harmed by another human being with ill intent. Your happiness has decreased, and so we rightfully label actions that cause such unhappiness immoral. Notice for a moment that religions don't address these gray area scenarios. The ordinances of the Ten Commandments are stark black and white. And it's not like it would have taken up too much space to add a little detail. The Torah spends a lot of space going over details of ritual sacrifice and very specific court-like cases for the Jews of that time period. Why couldn't God have used this space instead to detail exact universal moral codes? Either God expected us to realize that we don't need him to figure out how to be moral, or he was extremely short-sighted. Either way, it's obvious that an ultimate moral code isn't given by him. Instead, together as a community, we can come to a better set of rules to live our lives by. And we already have, all around the world. The laws that govern our countries were decided by its peoples. We already know what is moral and what is not. This sort of morality also has a second perk. Since it is not handed down as a divine command, we must take responsibility for keeping to it. This may at first sound like a bad position to be put into, but think about it. What kind of person needs an incentive to do what's right? Doing the right thing because you've figured out why it's right will give you a freedom and integrity unrivaled by that offered in religion. You also won't fall prey to feeling like you aren't responsible because God already forgave you. Someone who abandons responsibility for their actions is nothing more than a coward and needs to face up to what they did and try to fix it if they truly want to do the right thing and be absolved of their guilt. Accepting that you alone are responsible for your actions makes you more aware of those actions and reveals how you can improve yourself to live a life where you and the people around you are happier. You can show common decency to another human being because they deserve your respect, not because you were ordered to do so, like a parent reprimanding a disobedient child. You can donate to charities knowing that most of your money is actually going to the cause, instead of being used to power a church or build an excessively expensive new chapel. Some good candidates for donations are the Cancer Research Institute, the Organization for Autism Research, a university, or even your local soup kitchen. So instead of basing your morality on an ancient book which gives not just the Ten Commandments and the Golden Rule, but also commands murder, genocide, the oppression of women, child abuse, rape, and slavery, it would be better to replace this faulty foundation of morality with a moral guide that is based on mutual satisfaction and comprehensive happiness, and which can be applied throughout time and across cultures.